Well, Daddy, his name was Emilio Celian, and Mom was Evangelia Milonas. My dad was Italian, and he came up from Udine, up north of Italy, near Venice. Beautiful city, beautiful big city, very, very nice. And my mother was Greek, and she came from the island of Samos in Greece. My father emigrated in Egypt when he was 21, and my mother was 18. Anyway, Port Said. Well, that was the beginning of the canal. We had Port Said and Port Fouad. It was divided in two. Now, in Port Fouad, it was all villas built by the French people for the employers of the Suez Canal employer. It was a small community of people. They have their own beaches. It was very nice, and we had a casino there. And the other side was for everybody, the Port Said side. My mother and father then was born, and they had 6 children, but 2 died and 4 were alive. We were 2 boys and 2 girls. And we grew up in Egypt, naturally, and everybody had their own church, school. The Italian had the school because it was so international. I used to speak well 5 languages. I speak Greek, I speak the Italian, I speak Maltese. I learned Maltese with my mother-in-law. French, of course. French was the main language at school, all schools, the British school, the Italian school, Greek school, because we all have our own schools. We had to have French. French was the common language. People from all over Europe, they flop up in Egypt to find work. And they wanted skilled people, which the Egyptians were not. It was a very poor country, very ignorant country, because King Farouk didn't bother about his people. It's only when he abdicated and Nasser came into power, they started to educate, and children had to be at school until the age of 15 and so on. But before then, it was all Egyptians. They were very, very poor, and all the children, they were Sushan boys and were cleaning places. And they had their own, in Port Said, which was the beginning of the canal, the Suez, was divided in 2 sections. We have the European section and the Egyptian section. So we were not sort of close. My father had a business of buggies, like taxis, horses and
buggies.
And buggies, until cars started to come in, I think after the First World War. And he was a very clever and good accountant, so he went to work with this retailing store, the biggest in Port Said, which was catering for tourists when the ships used to come, one after the other. And so that's it, that we grew up there, and we had our own swimming club, we had our tennis club, we used to have dances for the young people every Saturday and Sunday. And that's how I met my husband when I was 18. I was walking through the main street, and this very smart fellow, he had a nice Borsellino hat, and he was just going through, follow me. And I thought, I never saw you before, because, I mean, it was a very small town, Port Said. In the afternoon that day, we went for dancing. It was the dancing on Saturday and Sunday. And then he asked me to dance, and of course he didn't know how to dance. He was all over my feet, and I thought, oh my God. Anyway, after the dance finished, to make the story short, then from then on, everywhere I went, if I went to tennis, he followed me. If I went to the swimming club, he followed me. And then he came to my mother, asked me if she let me go out with him to the movies, and that's how we started to go out. Bill was a second generation of Maltese living in Egypt. Anyway, at the end, when he was about 23, we got married. And then that was probably when we start thinking what's going to happen. In the meantime, the war finished, and he was in trouble with his business because the government wanted him to have about, I think, 80% of Egyptian working there and 20% only for European. And that was not good enough for him. And we start thinking, well, we better start moving because things are getting very tough here. So he sent his mother to Australia, and he came over here with a Constellation plane that took 5 days to arrive. They used to stop in each country overnight. He bought a house in Matraville because all people, Maltese people from Egypt, they all went to Matraville. In the meantime, I was pregnant of Charles, and he was here when Charles was born. He was a little bit earlier than he thought he would make it back home in time. And we have to wire him so he came back quickly.
That's Daddy Charles, plenty of hair on top.
Bill always took movies since the age of 16. He liked always to take movies.
And here is with Grandma, 10 months old. And Dino, your cousin.
This is just before we left Egypt to come to stay in Australia. There's the Himalaya. That's the ship we took to for our trip to Australia. That's going through the canal. This is in India, the Taj Mahal.
Well, the boat that left Port Said, we came with the Himalaya, which was a new ship, beautiful big ship, and we took 28 days to arrive. And I remember we arrived and we stopped in, it was Pyrmont, I think they used to call it. So the first impression was, it was all right, but it was in May. And after 2 days, it started to pouring rain for a whole 2 weeks, no stop. And I said to Bill, oh, where did you bring me? Oh, I can't stand this country with all this rain all the time. Oh my God. So that was my first impression. I was very disappointed. Well, I tell you what, the country was very primitive, we thought. First of all, bread. It was only the one big loaf of bread. That was it, no more bread. Cheeses, only the Coon Cheese you could find, nothing else. So we thought, oh God. So one day Bill discovered a Greek fellow who's imported olives and a little bit of different cheeses like feta cheese and some salami, some basturma, all things that my husband liked. And then he bought this basturma. That is a fillet of beef, but it's a lot of garlic. And Bill loved it, but it was a smell of garlic, God. So when he bought it, he rolled it in a lot of newspaper, because that day he didn't took the car, he went by bus. And he had this roll of newspaper, and the smell, everybody in the bus was sniffing this garlic. Anyway, when he came, he was telling me, we burst laughing. He said, I didn't know what to do. I was looking myself to see what everybody else was looking. That was a fun. All things that happens in life.